Yeah, so where we left off yesterday, let's have a quick glimpse on what we have been doing till yesterday. So this was the API which we were trying to automate. Okay, and we learned what are the methods available inside this, what are the endpoints we have, and we used Postman to kind of understand it. Basically, try to hit these APIs. We tried to analyze the endpoints. What are the result of and those endpoints? What are the values which are being returned, and all that information. And we also tried some authentication part, how to authenticate, how to use this authentication using Postman as well as your rest assured. And we also tried writing few of the test cases. I think 2 test cases what we have created yesterday. These are 2 test cases. So we entered server, we passed access token, which we have to get from, you need to sign up here, and only then you're going to get those access tokens. So in the API access, you will see this access token, and that's what you're going to put here as an access token. Okay, and using this server and access token, I am kind of writing the given statement first, and then the when part. Then here I am writing uh, the the endpoint for these users, and then I'm asserting it. So assertion part, I am checking few things. So I'm checking success, I'm checking code, I'm checking the message. And then I also wrote a negative test case for it, where I'm actually passing the incorrect token, and then I'm again validating the similar stuff. But this time the message is different. And these equal to these values which I'm putting here is coming from the Hemcrest matcher, which is this. And what are the methods available in this? I also explained, I have talked about that as well. Like what can you write here? So you can write equal to, contains, empty, not empty, has items. In the case of collection, you can use has items. So there are many methods, many opportunities for us to validate the responses quickly. This is not the only way by which you can do it. Of course, you can get that into a response object, and then you can use some assertions. But that's for now. Let's try to learn how can we do this using Rest Assured API. So Rest Assured API is a unique library which basically is responsible for 2 things. One is you can fire the endpoint. You can fire at the endpoint. You can get the response, and as well as you can validate it. So doing the operation, so this part is doing the operation till this point, this is doing the operation, and this all after then everything is validating the response. So everything you can do using a single library, and that is why it's very prevalent, very useful, and widespread uses of this library is present across industry for API automation, test API automation. So this is not the only way. Why again I'm saying this again, this is not the only way, only library available to do it. There are many such libraries using which you can write Java code. You can simply write plain Java code for writing of your hitting the API and writing some validation code for it. Now, before I move forward inside this Java environment, let me show you something in the Postman. So what I did today is I created a collection. Okay, so what is a collection? I'll again tell. So in Postman, collection is a concept wherein you can club multiple libraries. Can everyone go on mute? I can hear some disturbances. Okay, thank you. So in Postman, collections are nothing more than a folder, and then inside that folder you can club many requests. Okay, and then we can import and export this set to someone else. So for example, I have written these test cases or kind of requests here, and I can, so there are get requests, there are post requests, there are put requests, there are patch requests, and then there is one more called as delete request, and there are options request. So I have actually created these test cases. You can perceive it as a test case, however they are just a request entity in this collection folder, but you can use this to write your test cases here inside Rest Assured. Let me walk you through this first, and then I can explain how can you get this specific collection set within your machine. So what we have here is get request. So first is get all the users. This is the name, you can say name of the test case. Here I have written a get. This is the endpoint, and if I go and hit it, it will give me a response. right? Once I get the response, I am in the position to validate it. So that validation part I'm going to write inside Java later, but for now we can kind of understand what needs to be validated. So once you hit for this specific, once you hit this, you get the response. You have to validate few things. You can validate meta.success is true, meta.code is 200, meta.message is this. So these things has to be validated for every request, no matter which request we have, where you are going. For every request, you have to validate these items for sure. Then you can also validate the values inside this. So for example, you can validate that per page here is coming as 20. So this also, all the information which you have here also should be, so there should be 20 objects inside this. So for example, inside this result, this is an array, and this array has first object as this till here. Then we have second object. So that is also you can validate whatever is coming here, this information you can also validate it here. But for to keep things simple, for this get request for all users, you can, all you need to test it whether it is returning the items, and this result, this array is not empty. You can check that not empty, and total, and sorry, and this 4 items. So for success, code, message, and this result is non-empty. So these are the 4 validations you will have to do for this specific test case. Now we go to next test case, get all users pagination. So maybe before that, let's talk about get single user. So here you can get the information of a single user. So I can go and click on send, and it will give me the information of the single user. So in this case, again, you have to check meta is success, meta success is true, meta code is 200, meta message is this, and the result has this information of this. So result.id is 133 is what you can have to check again. Okay, so ask in between if you're not understanding how you will do these validations. What are these validations? These are simply this. So this body.message, you see I'm already checking this, but I'm not checking the body part at all as of now, but I should be checking this as a part of these test cases here. Okay, then comes the negative test cases. So here I'm trying to explain the negative one. So what we can do is, for negative, if I'm writing some incorrect information in the URL, and if I'm hitting it, I'm getting the response as success false, meta code 404, meta successes, request rows does not exist. And in the result, I have to mention result.message, object not found is this. Okay, so this will be a negative test case. I'll try to do automate all these test cases during today's call only, so don't worry. Next test case is about query parameters. So I explained this yesterday, that if you're passing something in the URL followed by a question mark, that means these 2 values are the nothing but the query parameters. So this is the key, this is the value. By this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to filter it out. So for example, I want all the users with gender as female. If I click send, so I will get the response as, again, this information I need to validate, and then I need to validate that all the arrays, all the objects in this array has gender coming as female. Okay, if everything is coming as female, then maybe I can say test case pass, otherwise I will have to say test case fail. So this is a complex validation which you need to do. Again, I will try to explain that how that can be done. Then again, query parameters, but this time multiple. So all the gender, all the entities with gender as female and status as active. So if I click on send, I'm getting all the, again, I need to check all these three fields. These 3 fields I need to check, and then I also have to check status and the gender. Gender is female, status coming as active for all the objects inside the array. Again, something specifically complex validation. Don't worry, I'll try to do that. Okay, then we have post. Okay, so if we talk about post, in the post we have a body. In the body, I'm writing something like this. So if in the last previous API classes which we discussed how the post works. In the post request, you need to send the body as well. Okay, so this body I have written here inside this as a part of post request. This is the endpoint. If I go and click on send, let me change something here because I've already created this. If I do this, I'm getting the response. Again, you need to check this value, and in the result section, you need to validate whether the first name is coming as the one which you have sent. So you have sent here first name as this. So these 4 values you will have to check it. Okay, By the way, why I'm sending only these 4 values? Because these are the mandatory values. Okay, I can also write something else. So I can also write website, phone number, status, etc., etc. But I don't have to, because right now it's not needed. Only 4 are mandatory. That's why I've only entered 4 here. Now the next test cases will be, now in this specific test case, you will have to validate these values. Then you have to validate whether the information is coming is right. And then the last validation will be a get request. So you will fetch an ID out of it, and then you will use that ID to fire a get request, and you should get the same response as this, basically. Sorry, response as this. So it will be the 4th validation. Okay. Now if we go to next test case, then again we have a negative test case. So if you notice, that is how basically we write test cases. We write test case for a positive case, and then usually you go towards writing negative test cases. So in this case, I'm writing negative test case for send empty body. In this case, I'm not sending any body. For example, here, if I click on send, I'm getting a response as data success false, code 422, messages this evaluation failed. Check the response body, and here all the details are coming. Email cannot be blank, first name cannot be blank. So all this information has to be validated. Next test case, body has all fields but no value. In this case, I have entered the body, but in the sections I have written empty strings. Click on send. I will see similar message, which is email cannot be blank. Okay. Then third test case in post, negative test case. Again, this is about body has all fields but incorrect values. So this time what I did, I entered some incorrect values. So temp and temp1, it will take, but in the email I am writing something like this, and the gender I am writing this, which is again not correct. So if I go and click on send, this time I'm only getting 2, which is gender is invalid. So this message gender is invalid. Second, email is not a valid email address. How did it know? Because we don't have this syntax here. Something like this, we don't have it. And that's why it's saying email is not there. So you need to validate it. So these are different test cases, guys. You need to automate them separately in a separate method. So every entity here represents a separate method, and you will fire the request, and then you need to validate these 3 items as well as the body. So in the body, we'll check these messages. Okay. Then we have one more in post, which is body has all fields but incorrect data type. So if I go here in the body, if you notice, I'm writing, so this is supposed to be a string. So API is expecting these field values to be a string, but I'm sending integers, which is again not right. If I go click on send, it will give me messages. His first name must be string. So if you notice, everywhere, in every cases, the messages are different. Somewhere it's coming gender must be string, somewhere it's coming gender cannot be blank, or email is not a valid email address. So different error messages are coming, and I should be validating all those error messages. I can, by the way, I can write more cases here. Trying I could try different combinations. I can try writing different, these values here. I can write more positive cases. So in this positive case, in this specific positive case, I'm only entering 4 values. I can write another positive case where I can enter all these values. I can write all these values. For example, if I go and create it, let me create it for now. Duplicate, positive, all values, feed all values. Okay. And let's say this test case is about positive, but only negative, only mandatory values. Values. In this case, I'm only sending mandatory values, but in this case, I'm sending all values. So I can actually write a test case where I will be sending everything. So I can be sending like this. I can be sending something like this. ID, of course, I will not send because there is no point. It will auto-generate. Gender, I've already entered. So I'll enter date of birth, email is there, phone, address, all this information I will send. Okay, various values I can write here. All can be in the string format. And I can also write validations for it. So let's say this is date of birth and I'm writing something like this. So let's see what happens if I do this. So what is the error message? Bad string. Okay. If I click on send here, so date of birth, it is taken as something like this, which I think it has converted to some extent. I don't know. So again, this could be a defect. I'm sending something stupid here and it is taking them something 1970-0101, some default value it has taken. So maybe for date of birth, there are no validations. Okay, so all my whole and sole point is that you can write more test cases by trying out different combinations of these fields. You can try to mess things up here separately, and things can go. And you can wait for API to respond in the right way. So let's say status is this. So now you get a message, status must be a string. And in this case, if you notice, this is the email ID. Again, another message I'm getting is email this has already been taken. This is a different error message. So I can create another negative message where I can write a code that I'll create something with an email ID, and then I'll again try to create another email ID with which is already present in the system, and I should get this message. Okay, so I can write many test cases. The whole and sole point is I'm to explain you I can write many test cases, but right now to keep things small for you guys to automate within a week, I'm only keeping this many. So post. If you get time to automate more, you can try it out. Okay, but the whole and sole funda will be similar. The same way you will validate things. So if I go and talk about put, so in put we modify something which is already there. Okay, so can we modify what is to be done? In the body part, we are going to enter the JSON, and whatever is part of the JSON, that information will get updated for that specific ID. So here you need to pass that ID basically, and then some negative test cases for it as well. So update existing user, send incorrect values to the field. I'm sending incorrect values to the existing one, and perhaps the right information is this, but I'm trying to update something which is not present in the system. So I should get a message that this is not present in the system, object not found, for put. Then we have one for delete. So it's pretty simple. You want to delete something, you enter the ID there and you run it, it will delete it. Then this options, there is another verb. So by the way, these methods like get, post, put, delete, options, patch, they all are, you can get full list here. These all are actually HTTP verbs. We call it HTTP verbs, verbs verbs, and these are the methods available in the HTTP to do certain things. So when a developer develops a REST API, he or she uses these verbs to perform the operations, and there is a specific association with these verbs with regards to what these verbs are, what these methods are capable of doing. So this get usually is used for getting information, post is used for creation of something, put should be used for updation of something, put and patch both should be used for updation of something, delete is used for, of course, as name suggests, for deletion, and there are many more here. Okay, so for this specific API, now it's up to the developer what he wish to implement. Okay, there are cases, there are many APIs which are there, which uses only one method called as post to do everything. So you can create an API, you can create a web service where you are only using post method to get information, to update information, to create information, to delete information, right? So again, I'm saying it's up to the developer how he wishes to create it. But if he's not using this get for getting, post for creation, put for updation, and delete for deletion, if he's not implementing the API like this, then you cannot say this is a RESTful API. Because to call an API a RESTful API, it has to obey the RESTful principles, which are get, post, put, and delete, and all these methods should be used the way it should be used. And you should not just do, or you should not do any hack where you are doing everything using a single method. Any questions in this so far?
हेलो सर, आपने ऑप्शन के लिए क्या बताया था?
right? So options is simply, if I go and hit this, options are simply, by options you are hitting the server where a server is telling you that I only allow get, put, patch, delete, head and options verbs. Okay, that's how basically the developer has created this. If you're hitting the API using using options method, it will give you the information about this. What are the methods it will allow? So get, put, patch, delete, head and options, these are only available verbs on which the API will respond. So it's pretty simple. I mean, nothing much here. So this again, you can validate whether you are getting this or not. Okay. By the way,
Okay, sir.
how I am getting this information? How did I come to know that this is post will do this, put will do this? All this information I am getting from the API documentation. So this is an API documentation page. You will always get this from the developer. Once the developer will finish its work on API, he will always give you this kind of documentation. It could be an HTML, it could be a Word, it could be anything in any format. But that document will, in that document, the content of the document will tell you what exactly are the endpoints, what will be returned, and how, in what format it will be returned. All that information you will get. So there are options, head, different authentication. What are the authentication here? All that information will be present. Okay, and here it's telling you response codes. So what are the response code? You see there were response codes for negative test cases. For example, there was a negative test case. Response code here is 422. What does it mean? 422 means data validation failed. Please check the response body for detailed error message. Okay, so it is telling us everything on for what this message means. 403. The authenticated user is not allowed to access the specified API endpoint. Let's see if we are getting this for are incorrect endpoints. If I go here, let me create one more duplicate, and in the duplicate part I will rename this. I will write incorrect get users negative incorrect token. Okay, and here in the authorization I will just put some incorrect authorization here. For example, some incorrect authorization I have entered for this specific request. If I do a send, I will get the response as this. Then authentication failed. So if I go to 401, authentication failed. Okay, so this is how basically I know what that error message means, what is the value of that error message. By the way, these are not something which is specific to this API. These are HTTP status codes. If you go and search for HTTP status codes, HTTP status codes, you will get a full list of what that specific HTTP code means. So you see, 1 is informational, 2 is success, 3 cross. This cross simply means the subsequent digits. So 200, 201. So anything which is coming in the line of twos starting with 2 means it's a success, but means different meaning. For example, 200 is returned when you do a get. 201 is returned when something is created in the system. Okay, so these are defined by HTTP protocol itself. Different, you see, it's a complete list of all the error codes, all the various HTTP codes. What does this mean? 200 is okay, 201 is created, 202 is accepted, 204 is no consent. All this information. Now it's up to the developer, API developer, to leverage this and return the right status code based on whatever it's doing with that request. Okay, so anything which is coming in with the 4 cross starting with 4, it's always something bad, unauthorized. So 400 bad request, 401 is unauthorized. That's what we got just now. 401 score is 401. 5 is something, again, something related to network. 4 is something related to something wrong with the request or something. Okay, something like that. Any questions, guys? The status codes and how what this postman request is. Now, how will you get this within your system, right? So what I would like is you guys go through it and try to run this. But this time you need to make sure that you use your own token. Don't use a token which I have already put in here. So my token is present here in the authorization. This is my token. You should not be using this token. So let me tell you the whole step, what you need to do. So what I'll do is, let me, this is saved, let me close all first, close all tabs. Okay, and let me, for now, would remove from workspace. Okay, so your Postman will look something like this. What you will do, you will clone a project. So I have kept this file inside GitHub, which is inside this repository. So there is a JSON file called as go rest API collection set.postman collection.json. Okay, so once you download this, you will get this file inside your system, which should be somewhere here. Okay, it should be, I think, if I go one level up, batch 8 here. So you will find that file something like this, go rest API collection.json. Then what you're going to do is, you're going to open the Postman, and the Postman you're going to go to file and import, and the import you will go to choose files, and you select that file and click on open. Once you do this, this collection will go to your system and you can start doing stuff here. But as I said, you should not be using my token. So next thing you will going to do is, you're going to go to the website. You need to sign up for that website. So it's very important that you sign up. Once you sign up, you can sign up using GitHub profile as well as Gmail as well as Facebook. So I have signed it up using GitHub. So once you sign up and you log in, you go to your API access section, you copy your access token here. You copy your access token here, and that access token, you're going to put it inside the authorized section here, something like this. And then you update and you're good to go. And then you can try out these things. You can try out with first this, then you can try to execute these test cases using Postman. Any doubt so far? How this needs to be done? Because without doing this, you cannot automate test cases, because for automation of test case, you need to know what's happening, what is the response. So once, for example, I want to automate this, I will first do it here, and then I will get the response, and then basically I will go ahead and validate these messages. Okay, fair enough. Now let's move on to the automation part of it. So I'll go back to my Java, and what I'll do is, maybe I will create another folder within this. So I'll create a package. I'll name it as .go rest finish, and then inside go rest, or rather, let me do one thing. Let me delete this. So I will go inside. I will create package. I will write .api.go rest, and then I click on finish. And inside this, I will go and create a class. I will say test case get request finish. Then I will create another class. I will say new class test case post request. Then maybe one more, which is for put request. So new class test case put request. And then last one is for class test case, let's say miscellaneous request. So maybe for all these options and head we will put it here. So for get request, let me start writing it. So I will copy things from here because I've already written it out. So I will copy this information from here to my get request part here. So my server location is this, access token, as I said, is here, but as I said, don't use it because it's my access ID, access token. And what will happen is, if everyone start using it, there's a restriction on it. So everyone start using it, I think there's a specification somewhere written here that it will only allow certain, I think some remaining allowances are there. So if you do this, you will not be able to use it very often. Everyone will start getting errors. So don't use it, use your own access token. And anyway, I'm going to update this. I'm going to generate something new and put it there so that you anyway will not be able to use it. But make sure you sign up and use the access token, right access token. Now what I'll do, get request. So first test case is this, which is get all users. So I'll rename my test case. I will say test case 1 get request fetch all users. This will be my test case. So response given base URI authentication is this. When I hit this, then assert that meta success code and message, and then I'm extracting the response. So my test case is already written here, so nothing more to be done in this test case. Second test case is about get all users pagination. Now this is, as I said, query parameter. If I do a send, I get a response where it is written what is the page name, page number here. So since I said page 5, I'm getting current page is 5, and per page I have quantity as 20, right? So if I go and write test case for this, now I will write some similar lines. I will write test case 02 get request validate pagination. Okay, and here I will write when dot get this, assert that all this information, as I said, this has to be checked every time, but then I will also check that the current page is coming as 5. So I'll write here. Yeah, so one point actually I missed here. So if you talk about this query parameters, which is page 5, users page 5. So if I want to do this, I will have to copy this here and put it here. Something like this, right? But this URL will not work. Here it is working the way it should work, but here it will not work. What you have to do is, if your endpoint also has query parameter, you really cannot send it like this. What you have to do is, you need to, in the given part, you need to write a method. You need to call a method called as query param. So in the query param, you need to enter the value. So you need to write here page, and you need to enter the value here as 5, and you need to remove it from here. Okay, you can also see something of this sort here, page equal to 5. Even in the with param, gender is this. Here there are 2 parameters, female, gender female, status is active. So here you can see gender is female, status is active. And the similar thing you need to do here, query param page 5. If you need to add one more param, then you need to add one more line here like this. For example, if you want to say gender, some gender or something, gender or status, then this is how you need to do that. For now, this test case only deals with the pagination, so I'm going to remove this here, something like this. Okay, and but in this case, since for this specific test case, I also need to validate that the current page is coming as 5, something which is I've sent from the parameter. So I will write here users, or maybe I will create a string here, or rather let's keep it simple. So I'll 5 here, and then in the body part, I will write here current page be capital, and that should be coming as 5. So this test case is also completed. Okay, and every time I am doing this, I am actually printing the response. So let me write in a better way. So response returned as okay. So now my 2 test cases are completed. Oh, what did I do? Okay, let me remove this. So my 2 test cases are completed. Okay, now let me give you a quick test case for post request. So for post request, again, I think we already did this post request for old one. So if I go through that, if I walk you through that first. So in this post request, what we did, we created the body, then we created the header, and then we created some specifications like this. And then in the given part, we sent the header, and the when part, we send the body. The similar thing we are going to do this for this specific case. So I'll go back to my post. I'll create a method, public void test case 01 post create new user. Okay, here I will write here @test, and I will call the existing imports. I will paste it here. Then I can start few more things I will need to write. So let me copy this test case altogether. Let me copy it here from here, paste it here. Okay, by the way, guys, this meeting is again going to end. It's time limited. It only takes, I mean, we can only do it for 40 minutes. So let me do one thing.